Hello again, friends. It's me, Miss Christina, with our last reading of Zoey and Sassafras, Grumplets and Pests by Asia Citro. I'm excited to come to the end. I love the endings of stories. It's sometimes what keeps me reading because I want to find out how everything ends up. So Zoey has been facing a few problems in this story. She has some bugs eating her kale, her vegetables, in her vegetable garden. And she has discovered that the creatures around her are getting grumpy right now. And she's trying to solve that problem. So if we just flip back a little bit to remind us what just happened, this picture reminds me, oh yes. So Pip the magical frog set up a picnic with some fruit, which is like nature's candy, to entice the Grumplets to eat fruit or anything else, but they're using fruit, berries, instead of the magical creature's joy and happiness, which in this story come out of the magical creature's head like strings of cotton candy. Oh my goodness. Now that stuff is all so imaginary. Is that real or is that made up? Is that make-believe? But in this story, the kale and the aphids are real, are realistic. That comes from real life. So Zoey has a family. She has a garden. She has a cat. And these are not imaginary things. Sort of a made-up story by the author. But these little monsters that live in the forest, that's not real. That's pretend. So I like that this story has some pretend things and some things that are like real life. It's kind of a fun mix. So we're going to read on. Now that I'm done chatting with you about what's been happening, we're going to read on and find out if Zoey solves her aphid problem in her garden and if the fruit has helped so that the Grumplets don't eat the joy and happiness from her friends. So here we go. Chapter 14, the big plan. And there's Sassafras the cat. All right, let's read on. Moom, I shouted as I came through the back door with a frog on my head and a cat at my feet. Mom grinned as soon as she saw our happy, excited faces. It worked. It totally did, I said. Pip didn't even get grumpy. The Grumplets got full on berries just as we ran out of them. It was a close call. Pip hopped over to my mom's shoulder and gave her a snuggle. So, now we need to find a big patch of strawberries in the forest, right? I think that was Pip talking. Mom had him hop onto her hand so she could talk to him better. Well, not exactly. We don't have any wild strawberries growing around here. Oh, said Pip, thinking for a moment. Then let's plant some blackberries. Well, said Mom, blackberries are actually invasive plants around here. Invasive what? Asked Pip. Invasive means that it grows too much in a place that it's not supposed to. I chimed in. Then there's no room for the native plants and plants that are supposed to be here. Pip flopped down on my mom's palm. Well then, that's it. We're doomed. Mom and I laughed. Don't give up yet, Pip. Mom lifted his chin with her finger. I found a local reforestation group that's doing some native plantings a few miles away in a nearby forest. Yes, I pumped my fist. Berries too? They are planting a bunch of different things, Mom said. Some are trees, some are bushes, and some are definitely berries. They said they have several black-capped raspberries, huckleberries, and thimbleberries that need to be planted. My tummy rumbled, and Mom and I laughed a lot. I love forest berries. A lot, said Pip. There they are talking. There's Zoey, there's her mom, who I think is a scientist, if I remember right. And there's Pip, that magical frog. All right. I lost my place. There we go. I signed up for the planting this Saturday, Mom said. It's summer, so the berry plants we're planting should be producing berries right now. But We have to find a way to get the Grumplets over to the new patch of berries after we plant them, I finished. Exactly, said Mom. My shoulders dropped. There's no way Pip could yell about how tasty the berries are from miles away. That's true, Pip grinned, but you know someone who is loud enough. He held out his hand, waiting for me to figure it out. I knew someone who could yell from miles away? But to be that loud, they'd have to be seriously huge. Do you have a guess about who that is? I don't think I know. Oh, I gasped. Mom raised her eyebrows at me. She still hadn't guessed. Tiny, I cheered. Chapter 15, Tiny. Here we go. We're on page 80, my friends. We have read just about 80 pages of this book. My goodness. And there's a little Grumplet. We are almost at the end. This book goes to page 94. Ooh, we're almost there. On Saturday, Mom and I worked hard with the team of volunteers planting the native plants, including all the berries. But I didn't mind the work. I love plants, and even better than that, the next day I was going to see Tiny. I hadn't seen him since I helped heal his hoof. So let me just say, this is the 7th book in this series. So if you go back, there's probably a book where there's something really big and magical called Tiny. And we're going to meet that creature here, but it sounds like Zoey helped Tiny with his hoof. I wonder what kind of animal he is. Do you have a guess? We'll see. Do you think he'll be even bigger? I whispered to Mom as we patted down the soil around a thimbleberry we'd just planted. I suspect so, Mom laughed, though that's hard to imagine, isn't it? I grinned. I could hardly wait. After we got home and washed up, I did my best to keep busy. I read books, brushed Sassafras, checked on my garden, and finally went to sleep. I dreamed of unicorns, obviously. Oh, is that a clue? Let's see. The next morning, Mom and Sass and I took the car to the new berry patch. As we turned the corner and it came into view, I pressed my whole face against the window. Whoa, I said. 6 ginormous unicorns towered over everything. I squinted at their hooves. Oh, there was our tiny Pip. We parked, and Sassafras and I burst out of the car and ran over to Tiny, who was in fact taller. Zoey and Cat! Tiny boomed. Tiny! I hugged his enormous leg while Sassafras lovingly rubbed his face on another leg. Tiny tilted his head one way and said, oh, do you want to see the picture? Tiny's Mom and Dad! Then tilted the other way and said, Tiny's sister and brothers! There they are. Now, do you see where our friends are? Who is that? Oh my gosh. Can you tell that, there we go, right there? That little thing right there? That is Zoey, the human. And Pip, I think, is down by her feet. Oh my, these unicorns are enormous. I've never seen such a thing, have you? Did you guess unicorn? I was not thinking that Tiny was going to be a unicorn. But unicorns do have hooves, don't they? Do you see their hooves? That's their type of foot. It's like a big toenail. All right, let's see. It's nice to meet you all, I shouted up. Each member of Tiny's family took turns lowering their heads so I could pet them gently on the nose. Unicorns, happy to help, Tiny said. Much grumpy in the forest. Zoey fix it? I sure hope so. Let's get these Grumplets out of our forest. The unicorns nodded. The gust of wind knocked me down, and Pip and Sassafras went rolling. Oops, sorry, said the unicorns. Pip brushed himself off, and Sassafras gave a good shake. Let's stick to yes or no instead of nodding, yeah? Pip said. Yes, said the unicorns. Okay, Pip continued. Zoey and I are going to make a trail of berries from the edge of the forest over to this new patch of berries. Once we've set that down, we need you to shout about how good the berries are. Hopefully, the Grumplets will come running toward your voices Find the berry trail and follow it to our new field of berries. Got it? Yes, said the unicorns. Mom handed me and Pip each a container of berries. We didn't want to use up the wild ones growing in the bushes for this. Then we laid out a trail of berries leading from the edge of the forest over to the new patch of berries. I crossed my fingers, whispered, "Please let this work." Can you cross your fingers too? Maybe that'll help. And then nodded up to the unicorns as everyone on the ground covered their ears with their hands. Good berries, shouted one. Many kinds of yummy, shouted a second. We have much happy over here, added Tiny. We waited and waited. The unicorns used their loudest voices to let the whole forest know about the berries. But where were the Grumplets? Chapter 16, Disappointed. Okay, we have 2 short chapters left, and I'm going to finish reading this book this time. So if you need a break, you can pause my video and come back in a minute when you're ready. If you need a snack, if you want some berries to eat, maybe you have some at your home. I like berries, do you? All right, chapter 16, Disappointed. I dragged my feet over to Mom. I don't understand. I thought this would work. I felt like crying, but I took some breaths and tried to stay calm. We'd figure out something, I told myself. We did too, sweetie, Mom hugged me, but it's a long way to walk. First, the Grumplets have to hear the unicorns, then they have to walk a few miles through the forest toward the sound until they find the berry trail from the edge of the forest to here. That could take some time, I imagine. I guess, I said. It's just that the Grumplets were really fast when I saw them last. I figured they'd be here by now. So here I see one Grumplet and a path of something and a forest. Let's see. I flumped to the ground, crossed my legs, and set my head in my hands. Pip and Sassafras came over and snuggled me. Then Sassafras started chattering. I looked up. Sassafras was chattering? That meant... Yes, I whispered. I could see the first of the Grumplets eating a berry from our berry trail. The unicorn spotted it and stopped shouting. They effortlessly glided to either side of the berry trail to clear a path for the Grumplets. First one, then another, then several more Grumplets appeared. They followed the berry trail just like I'd planned. When the Grumplets got to the plants, they looked a little confused. Then they started sniffling. One found a berry on the plant and stared for a minute, then plucked it off and ate it. The others watched and did the same. I hope there are enough berries, I whispered to Mom, and she nodded. They ate just a few of the wild berries before patting their stomachs. The smallest Grumplet gave a little burp. Oh my, can you burp? What does a burp sound like? What are they going to do now, Zoey, whispered Pip. I have no idea, I whispered back. The Grumplets moved a little further into a new patch of plants, and one of the Grumplets pointed at an old hollowed-out tree trunk. All the Grumplets snortled and squeaked at each other. Then they looked along the ground. I stood and picked up Sassafras so we could get a better view. Pip hopped on Mom's head, and she stood too. What are they doing? I whispered. The Grumplets were gathering up moss and lichen and putting it in the hollow part of the trunk. Oh, I think they're making a bed, I quietly told Sassafras. Meow! One by one, the Grumplets piled on top of each other inside the tree trunk. Before we knew it, they were snoring. We held back our giggles so we wouldn't wake them. Oh my. So the Grumplets made it to the berry patch away from the forest. And they have something to eat that's not joy or happiness. That's good. Okay. So now chapter 17, our last chapter, just a few pages till the very end. Chapter 17, time to check. So what's left in the story that we don't know about? Do you remember? Is there something else we need to find out before the story ends? Here we go. Chapter 17. Mom said there was no telling what the Grumplets would do next. We just had to wait and hope. Sassafras and I did our best to keep busy. We went on lots of hikes, built forts, and had play dates with friends, made kale chips, and crafted. Which of those things do you like to do? That was a good list. Okay, I'm just going to go back real quick. It says we went on lots of hikes. Do you do that? You could try it. Do you build forts? Oh, that's one of my favorite things and my kids' favorite things. Had play date with friends. We might not be doing that right now. Made kale chips. Have you ever tried kale chips? If you can get kale chips from your grocery store or delivered to you, you put oil and salt on them and you bake them in the oven until they get crispy. The oven isn't too hot, it's just a warm oven. You might like them. They're green, but they kind of taste like potato chips. Yum. And crafted. Have you been doing any crafts? I bet you have. It was getting hotter and hotter, so we went to the stream to cool off. I eagerly rolled up my pants and waded into the stream. Wade, wade, wade. The mer horses chased me and licked my ankles, which made me crack up. What does crack up mean? It made her laugh. Sassafras was, of course, staying dry on the shore and watching us play. Hey, Sassafras, I said between fits of laughter. It's been a long time since any of our friends have been really grumpy. Meow, he exclaimed. He turned to chase a cricket in the grass. Do you think Mom will drive us out to check on the Grumplets yet? I asked him as I smiled down at the mer horses in the water. Meow, he said, distracted by the cricket chase, followed by a much louder meow. That couldn't be good. I looked over to see Sassafras giving Pip an angry look. Uh-oh. What's that about? Ah, crickets are delicious, Pip rubbed his belly. Sorry, old friend. I shuddered thinking of how crunchy crickets must be. Ew. Hey, Zoey, Pip called. I thought I heard you laughing. I wanted to ask you, are the Grumplets officially gone? No one's seen them in the forest lately. I wiggled my fingers underwater to wave goodbye to the mer horses and carefully waded over to the shore. Wade, 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 wade. We were just talking about asking Mom if she'd drive us over to check. Want to come? Pip hopped on my head, and I took him and Sassafras across the stream back to my house. We all pleaded with Mom, plead, 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 until she agreed to take us. We were just getting in the car when I remembered my camera. 1 sec, I said, and dashed off to get it. Once we got to the berry patch, we noticed that there were a few ripe ones that were uneaten. That's a good sign, right? I asked. Maybe they're already moved on. Could be, Mom said, fanning herself. Remember, it's summer when this story is happening. We peeked in the hollow tree trunk. It looked like it had been slept in, but we couldn't see or hear Grumplets anywhere. Meow, called Sassafras from farther away. We followed the sound and squatted down next to him. What did you find, buddy? Sassafras put his nose into a patch of what had been mud. I brushed aside some grass and branches, and sure enough, we saw Grumplet footprints that the heat had dried into the mud. Mom, I exclaimed, these are leading away from the forest, right? Do you think the Grumplets have moved on? Maybe they're looking for more berries farther away. It looks like it, Mom gave me a high five. I reached into my backpack and pulled out my camera. I forgot to take a photo when the Grumplets were around. Do you think you could get a photo of us by the Grumplet footprints for my science journal? Mom took the camera, and Pip and Sassafras and I gathered around the footprints and grinned. At home, I went to put the photo into my science journal. I noticed a sweet smell. No way, I said to myself as I tilted the photo left, then right. Yep, I could just barely make out the sparkly strands of Pip's joy floating around him. After I glued down the scented photo, I opened my journal to find a new blank page, so it was ready for the next magical creature we would meet. There's her journal. And that's the end. After the story ends here, we have something called a glossary, and that tells us what some of the tricky words from the story mean, like aphid. So I'll tell you what it says an aphid is. An aphid is a small insect that feeds on sap from plants and damages them. Did the ladybugs help the kale? They must have. A pest is an animal or insect that damages another animal or plant. And there is the author and illustrator, Asia Citro and Marion Lindsay. And that's the end of our book, friends. We read this whole big chapter book. So many pages, almost 90 pages in this book. I am so proud of you for listening to such a long and complicated story. Great job. So for this book, for our virtual book club, I have a little idea that's pretty simple. If you have paper at your house, you might grab a few pages, maybe 2 or 3 or 4. And something you can do with this paper is fold it, kind of line it up so that it's all straight, and your grown-up might be able to help you. And you fold it in half this way, and then line it up really good, and then crease it. Make that fold really well creased, and then you have something that works like a book. And if you have a stapler at your house, you can staple it close to that fold. So I'm getting so close to the fold. You might need your grown-up to help you do that. Do 2 or 3 staples. And can you see that? Not really. So I have a staple here, and a staple here. And the edges of the pages are here. So now this can act like a book or a science journal. So you can make a book of a story with someone like Zoey in it, or you, unicorns and mer horses, or whatever you want to imagine, or you could use it as a science journal and use some markers. And I might call it Miss Christina's, I'm writing on the cover. And maybe I'll switch colors because I want it to be fancy and colorful. Science journal. So I use some of my favorite colors. I could decorate it with some things that I like from nature that I might want to observe, like Zoey did. I like to check out leaves, and I like to study in the grass. And I like to check out the clouds. And maybe that's all for the cover for today. And I can go outside, maybe on a walk or into my yard and find something. You might find a magical creature, or you might find an animal, an insect, a flower that you like, a plant. You might find I'm thinking I recently saw a ladybug. It was by my pool, and my daughter scooped it out of the water, and she let it dry its wings crawling around on her arm. And we finally got it to go to the nice warm ground where it continued drying off. So I might draw something like that and color it. Mine is kind of fun colors. Instead of red and black, I'm using pink and blue, which are kind of close colors, but kind of imaginary. And I might write the word with my grown-ups' help, ladybug. Or if I like to write lots of things, I might write what happened. Like we found a ladybug in the pool and we helped it dry off and get out. And you can collect your observations, things that you see in nature, in your science journal, just like Zoey did. Thanks so much for enjoying this book with me, friends, and I'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye.